Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. Dynamic changes in Eternum's history for the fourth night this week as the syndicate forces of Duranda Dogs seized the spice fields of First Light from the marauders of Unsupervised. The newly anointed Spice Lords of the island wasted no time letting their intentions be known.
We're farming Haysop to help the potion market.
Excellent, excellent. Before I let you go to celebrate with the rest of your crew, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Can you
We're gonna go for Windsward. I guess we try for Windsward now.
Indeed, Duranda members of the community celebrated their victory throughout the night. KOTT news crews were also able to catch up with members of Regime, who were humble in extending their never-fall unbeaten streak to 5. Unfortunately, that footage has become corrupted. Which brings us to the weather, and it's a beautiful morning lasting all day long until early afternoon when an uncommon matinee invasion will hit newly syndicated First Light. Tropical swells will pick back up again starting early evening in Cutlass Keys and Ebonscale, with late evening northern cold fronts blasting in late. 3 simulated fantasy combat resolutions for tonight brought to you by LARPGO. Remember, if it isn't LARPGO, it's cardboard. Turned away last week, those wargies returned to Morningdale in their efforts to displace current governing company, the Instigators. KOTT News has been unable to identify a member of those wargies' leadership to confirm their goals. As far as I know, the story remains the same for the Instigators, a company of hipster homebrewing hippies whom are planting barley, hops, and ruderalis, ironically, just chillin'. Meanwhile, the Marauders of Emerald Stand take another shot at Reekwater by declaring war against the presiding great house, Primordius Virtue. The last fight was close, 2 objectives down. Undaunted, they have returned to go for more. Former founding house Primordius Virtue has established new roots in this fishing port town. So if it's a fight for fish you want, that's fine by the fishmongers. In the nightcap, syndicate newcomer Faceless makes their first play on the primary oil fields of Weaver's Fin, declaring war on want-to-buy leapstones. It's no wonder that any refugees to the shores of Eternum would seek out land, especially a region so abundant in natural resources. But want-to-buy leapstones isn't just going to give it away without a fight, or at the very least, a well-negotiated arrangement of some kind, possibly involving leapstones. More on that story if it develops. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news, and this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night, as all 3 great houses remind us all what makes them so great by turning away all challengers. Investigating rumors of a lack of enthusiasm for the outcome in Weaver's Fin, KOTT News went right to the source.
I woke up from a nap today and did not anticipate being in this war, but I'm here to help. We're going to try out some defensive strats and just kind of have fun with it. But you know, we're treating it as a serious war, so expect to see some good fighting out there.
And treat it as a serious war they did, keeping the forces of Faceless completely at bay. KOTT news crews also met with Instigator leadership, who stood stoically while his High Council spoke on the company's behalf, following their defense of Morningdale. Great effort all around out there tonight, and in the end, you held. How do you feel it went?
No, it was a good war tonight. Everybody really were on their rotations. The heavy hitters were hitting heavy, and the Alliance came out and showed tonight that Camelot is going to be a tough one to take down.
Turning to the weather, and would you look at that? It's clear all morning long into late afternoon. Then a 40% chance of invasion, mainly out of the north, but also in First Light. Only 1 simulated fantasy combat resolution on the books for tonight, brought to you by LARPGO. Remember, if it isn't LARPGO, it's cardboard. Tonight, it's the syndicate forces of Hexacon assailing the Covenant Company, Totally Not Regime, for the right to rule the Monarch's Bluff. Totally Not Regime has held the region of Monarch's Bluff for over a month and are the third longest tenured company to currently hold a great house. This will be the first official fight for Hexacon, who, in their judgment, believe the forces of Totally Not Regime simply have no other alternative than to give them what they want. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as the forces of Totally Not Regime retain rulership over the monarchy of the Bluff. Hexacon showed excellent fortitude and conditioning throughout the battle and managed to take 2 objectives in their first official war. New refugees continue to arrive on the island, forming companies and demanding simulated fantasy combat resolution. More on that after the weather. Over to you, JC. Thanks, JC, and as you can see, it's going to be another perfectly beautiful day all morning long, well into the afternoon, where those pesky tropical swells will cause a very light 20% chance of invasions around the coastal edges. 3 simulated fantasy combat resolution events on the books for tonight, brought to you by the patent-pending foam core technology of LARPCO. Remember, if it is in LARPCO, it's cardboard. First up tonight, traveling vaudevillian act adult entertainers attempt to set up shop in Cutlass Keys, home of Weeptile TTV. They ain't no traveling teeny bopper group. They ain't no high school talent show. They aren't even a college garage band. They are adult entertainers. But Weeptile TTV wants to listen to their audition tape before booking them for the mosh pit. Later, the Marauders of Context enter the deep woods of Brightwood in their effort to dethrone the current ruling company, Secrets. This will be Secrets' first defense of the bear-infested dark woods and waterfalls of Brightwood since liberating it for the Syndicate last week. That should give Context a frame of reference with which to develop an ambience for the conditions of Brightwood. In the nightcap, Covenant Company Lost Templar are looking for a place to call home in Restless Shore. But that's where Corrupted Kings live. The ordained mission of these Chevalier has yet to be declared. But hey, it's Restless Shore, so let's go play in the mud. Corrupted Kings is another solid addition from the new wave of refugees to the island and seem fully capable of defending themselves from Inquisition. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as all 3 great houses held court. KOTT News crews were in Cutlass Keys getting reactions after the event at 11. Hello, sir. JChalant, KOTT News. How do you think it went out there tonight?
Everyone on both sides did pretty awesome. Everyone held the point when they should have, went back and forth. It was tight and it was exciting.
In other news, denizens of Windsward Northgate Tent City have begun blocking the intersection. Travelers are advised to expect delays. Turning to the weather, and it looks like the morning is going to start beautifully again today and last all afternoon long, until early evening when tropical swells will induce staggered invasions along the coastlines. Then a dense cold front pushing in from the north will bring scattered invasions late. 4 officially sanctioned simulated fantasy combat resolutions on tap for tonight, brought to you by LARPCO. Only LARPCO's patent-pending foam core technology is built for safety, durability, and comfort. Remember, if it isn't LARPCO, it's cardboard. Up first on the undercard are the Marauders of So Bricked RN, challenging the Syndicate forces of Secrets for control of Ebonscale. Marauders need little reason to ransack a town. especially one so bountiful in medicinal herbs. But Secrets has pledged to develop and defend the hamlet from invasions and invaders, and are fully prepared to defend the hot springs. In the middleweight bout of the evening, the zealots of Yan Huang attempt to dethrone Duranda Dogs, the reigning Spice Lords of First Light. Yan Huang have not made their intentions beyond tonight's outcome clear. However, several religious ceremonies call for various spices. All regions in conflict tonight, including this one, have been highly contested since the newest wave of refugees swam ashore last week, as Duranda Dogs can attest. Another syndicate newcomer, Psych, has challenged Regime for the championship title and the right to rule Everfall. A victory tonight for Regime will pull them ahead of the Reckoning into sole possession of second place in their pursuit of the current Neverfall record held by Elysian with 10. For Psych, would-be spoiler, in for the fight of their lives in their very first official simulated fantasy combat. I hope they brought their LARPco. Finally, Syndicate Black Wolves Company returned to the financial capital of Windsward to try again against the forces of Regime. In the cover of the night, the forces of Black Wolves Company will attempt their second heist of the region, having failed 4 nights ago. Regime forces may be split from defending the title earlier in the night, but they also need the financial prosperity of Windsward to supplement their Neverfall run for 11. Speaking of, we'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night, as all 4 great houses hold court over their respective battlefields. Of note in Everfall, Regime retains their championship title belt and extend their Neverfall streak to 6. Turning to the weather, and it's another beautiful morning all day long, well through the afternoon until early evening, when tropical El Niños will press up from the south and Arctic blasts will come down from the north, colliding and causing huge swellings of invasions. So plan your travel accordingly. 3 official rosters submitted for tonight's events, brought to you by LARPco. Remember, if it isn't LARPco, it's cardboard. First up, the Marauders of Landlords challenge syndicate company Primordius Virtue for the fishing port town of Reekwater. Another newcomer to the island rises, and they're the Landlords. We should hope to see such a unified connection on the battlefield. Reekwater was once a destination renowned for the freshest sushi and seafood dishes. Now, the constant open world PvP has spooked the fish from the swamps. Surely tonight's fight will go to the hungriest. Meanwhile, the syndicate forces of Exilium Aeternum challenge the Marauders of the Instigators for the northernmost region of Morningdale. This will be Exilium's second attempt to gain a foothold here on the island, having failed against Civil Riot in Ebonscale. For the Instigators, anyone interrupting planting of their spring crops of barley, wheat, and miscellaneous seedlings is going to be in for an instigation. In the late night event, it's the Bats of Great Value Kokiotos challenging Want to Buy Leapstone for the primary oil fields of Weaver's Fen. The fen would make a pleasant home for most bats, rich in both insect and small fruit. For Want to Buy Leapstone, the price of doing business has gone up, and they're going to need those oil reserves to finance their pursuits. Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello, Eternum, and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. Dynamic change in the history of Eternum last night as the forces of Great Value Kokiotos acquire the primary oil reserves of Weaver's Fen from Want to Buy Leapstones. The members of Kokiotos who have found the spark have now secured this strategic region in the name of the Covenant. Opposing factions have already begun challenging for control of the region, but so far, the occupying forces of Great Value Kokiotos have been swift to respond. Speaking of swift, in other news, the public transportation system got a big boost today. Recent technological advancement have eliminated the mass limitations of shrine transport. Citizens utilizing the transit system will now find prices incredibly reasonable for traveling across the island, even more so when arriving within a faction destination. We asked local citizens how they felt about the change.
I am so happy about it. Although I have so much Azoth now that I don't know what to do with it.
So how will this change impact the weather? Eternum's a beautiful world to walk around in all morning long and into late afternoon when the sunset brings out early evening invasions that will persist throughout the night. So even if shrine transport is more valuable now, you scenery walkers out there, be careful. This week's Simulated Fantasy Combat Resolution of the Week is brought to you by LARPGO. Remember, if it isn't LARPGO, it's cardboard. Tonight, the Syndicate forces of Black Wolf's Company 2 assault the western bluffs of Monarch in their attempt to dethrone Totally Not Regime. Totally Not Regime has totally held the region of Monarch's Bluff for a total of just under 2 months, making them the third longest tenured Great House. For the last 2 weeks, the Black Wolves varsity team has been hammering away at the fortifications held by Regime. Perhaps tonight's participants have something to prove. We'll have the outcomes and reactions from the citizens tonight at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News. Hello Eternum and welcome to KOTT News, Eternum's #1 source for news. And this is the War Report. No change in the dynamic of Eternum last night as the forces of Black Wolf's Company get turned away by the monarchs of the Bluff, Totally Not Regime. The slow news night gave this reporter a chance to hang out with knights of the turntable.
JC, man in the outpost.
That's right. That's
Oh,
KOTT is here representing in the OPRs. What do you
Yeah.
think of the new OPRs, man? So let me get you to stand still and get an interview with you. What do you think of the new OPRs?
I'm not doing any interviews. I'm a soldier in the war right now.
The soldier in a war. Okay.
That's right.
Oh,
Fighting for my life.
Look out. Yogi, go get him, Yogi.
Here they come.
Oh wow, I got that one pretty good.
Shoot them up, boys.
Quick report for today, including the weather. You know the deal. Perfect all day. 20% chance of invasion later. 3 simulated fantasy combat resolutions on the books for tonight, including 2 new groups of marauders making their official debuts. Brought to you by LARPCO brand foam core simulated combat gear. Remember, if it's not LARPCO, it's cardboard. The Marauders of Booty Clapital challenge the Syndicate forces of Weeptile TTV for control of the secondary oil reserves of Cutlass Keys. The dispute between Crocodile Swampland conservationists and oil-seeking alchemists come to a head tonight in the Keys. As taxonomy experts of Weeptile TTV continue to reclassify the misidentified reptiles of the southern coast, their combat strategists will be busy at the fort. More marauders in the form of DG-1 challenge the Syndicate forces of Secrets for control of the bear-infested deep forests of Brightwood. Another newcomer emerges from the marauders in the form of DG-1, who make their first assault by hiking into the woods. Secrets secured the central northern region just over a week ago and already have had to face 2 bandit groups of marauders. Not the most pleasant of housewarmings. In the nightcap, Covenant forces of Lost Templar assault the Syndicate forces of Corrupted Kings for control of the Restless Shores. The anarchy at the archipelago returns once again as the forces of Lost Templar give it another go in the mud, fighting uphill in the rain for 30 minutes, poor conditions for cardboard. Will Corrupted Kings repeat their last strategy of staying on the high ground and pushing them back down the hill? Be sure to tune in for complete coverage and reactions from the citizens at 11. Until then, this has been War Correspondent JChalant, KOTT News.